You love to see it. You love to see it. Huge protests across Europe over new restrictions. Tens of thousands of people have been marching in the Belgian capital, Brussels, to protest against anti COVID measures. And it's not just Belgium, it's also happening in Austria and Germany as well, because some of the new restrictions they brought in are the restrictions that we knew they would bring in, but we were called conspiracy theorists for even suggesting it. Some protesters threw fireworks at police officers who intervened with tear gas and water cannons. Demonstrators are mainly opposed to the use of COVID passage, which stops the unvaccinated from entering venues such as restaurants or bars. Which, if basically, I think it comes down to the businesses. If the businesses want to admit the unvaccinated, then they absolutely can. If they don't want to, then that's fine. They can reject it. This comes after fresh protests in the Netherlands against the new lockdown rules. On Saturday, people hurled fireworks at police and set fire to bicycles in The Hague one night after protests in Rotterdam turned violent and police fired gunshots. Thousands of demonstrators also took to the streets in Austria, Croatia, and Italy as anger mounted over new curbs. In Belgium, rules on face masks have been tightened, including in places such as restaurants where COVID passes are already required, and most Belgians will also have to work from home 4 days a week until mid-December. There are also plans to make vaccinations for health workers compulsory, and in some places, I think it's Austria, have just done this. Vaccines are now compulsory. That's it. It doesn't matter who you are, you must get a vaccine, or you'll be faced with fines and penalties. Basically, the people won't get vaccinated, then we will bankrupt them until they do. Earlier, the World Health Organization said it was very worried about rising coronavirus cases on the continent. Its regional director, Dr. Hans Kluge, told the BBC that unless measures were tightened across Europe, 500,000 more deaths would be recorded by next spring. The WHO, a very honest and absolutely not compromised institution. COVID 19 has become once again the number one cause of mortality in our region, he said, adding that we know what needs to be done in order to fight the virus, such as getting vaccinated, wearing masks, and using COVID passes. Many governments across the continent are bringing in new restrictions to try to tackle rising infections. A number of countries have recently reported record high daily case numbers. In the Netherlands, a second night of riots broke out on Saturday and in several towns and cities. Hooded rioters set fire to bicycles in The Hague as riot police used horses, dogs, and batons to chase the crowds away. Officials announced an emergency order in the city and at least 7 people were arrested. Police said a rock was thrown through the window of an ambulance carrying a patient. Officers in the city tweeted that 5 police officers were injured, with one taken away by ambulance with a knee injury, obviously an arrow. Elsewhere in the country, 2 top-flight football matches were briefly halted after supporters broke into the grounds and ran onto the pitch. Fans are currently banned from stadiums because of new coronavirus rules. The unrest following a night of riots in Rotterdam, condemned by the city's mayor as an orgy of violence. Based. Sounds kind of hot. Police fired warning shots and direct shots because the situation was life-threatening, a police spokesperson told Reuters. Yeah, apparently the police actually did fire into the crowd. At least 3 demonstrators were receiving hospital treatment for gunshot wounds, officers said. Authorities have launched an investigation. So basically, the police are now turning the guns on people because they don't want to get the vaccine. That's interesting. No, sorry. None of this happened. We were conspiracy theorists for even dare suggest anything like this could ever occur. The Netherlands imposed a 3-week partial lockdown last weekend after recording a record spike in COVID cases. Bars and restaurants must close at 8 o'clock, and crowds are banned at sporting events. Tens of thousands of people protested in Austria's capital, Vienna, after the government announced a new national lockdown and plans to make jabs compulsory in February of 2022. It is the first European country to make vaccination a legal requirement, and it will not be the last. I think Germany is already starting to do it. So yeah, again, conspiracy theory. No, we weren't. Here it is. It's coming true. It's happening. It's happening. Remember that? Oh, it's just a little 2 weeks in your house to slow the spread. Just a little 2 weeks in your house to slow the spread. So, okay, now it's 3 months. Now it's 6 months. Now it's a whole fucking year. Yeah, it's fine. It's just just a little mask in a restaurant. Now it's masks all day, every day. No, you can't go any restaurants, can't go any bars, get your vaccination. Oh, don't worry, the vaccine will be optional. Okay, you just have to. There we go. They're trying to shut me up. Fox die, but for right wingers. Pardon me. But yeah, basically they're saying, oh no, the vaccination, no, oh, of course it'll be optional. I mean, you just need it to keep your job, but you know it's still optional. You don't have to get it. Well, now look at this. Government's coming in and saying get vaccinated. How long? Okay, tell you what. How long before the police are going around forcefully vaccinating people? I get the feeling it's going to happen. I get the feeling that it is absolutely going to happen. Uh, the country will enter a 20-day nationwide lockdown from Monday, shutting all but essential shops and ordering people to work from home. The mandatory vaccinations have been described as a double-edged sword by Andrea Ammon, director of the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. She told BBC's Andrew Marr that these strict rules can make people who are still doubting the vaccine but not fully rejecting completely turn away from it, and that is happening massively right now. In Croatia, thousands marched in the capital Zagreb to show their anger at mandatory vaccinations for public sector workers, while in Italy, a few thousand protesters gathered in the ancient Circus Maximus chariot racing ground in Rome to oppose green pass certificates required at workplaces, venues, and on public transport, essentially vaccine passports, but not just to get into venues, but also to have a job. You want to be able to feed yourself and your family? Just get a vaccine. It's your choice. It's your choice, you know? It's your choice between getting the vaccine or your family starving, but it's a choice. It's a choice. You still get to choose. French authorities are sending dozens more police officers to quell unrest on the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, a French overseas department. Overnight riots saw looters ransack dozens of shops and set businesses alight after protests against France's own COVID pass it turned violent. Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin said that some involved in the unrest used live ammunition against law enforcement and promised a firm response to those committing public disorder. Jesus Christ, man, if only the French were as good at fighting everybody else as they are themselves. UK Health Secretary Sajid Javid said that there are no plans to change travel rules between the UK and Germany at the moment in view of the rising number of cases there. He said this was because Germany was dealing with the Delta variant, and we have Delta here already, and I'm not sure there is much benefit in having more rules, but we do keep an eye out for any potential new variants, he told Andrew Marr. Are you in the Netherlands? Have you been affected by what's happening? Get in touch. Well, they speak to a BBC journalist, and I'm sure they will present you very, very fairly. Okay, so basically, like, one thing that we knew is like never let a catastrophe go to waste, and that's one thing that the government certainly does not do, especially when it comes to the government expanding its own power. Literally anything that goes wrong and anything that the government can sort of exaggerate and make the problem seem like a giant fucking boogeyman, the government solution is, but oh, we can make all of it go away. We can make all of it go away if you just hand over a few more of those little pesky rights things that you guys have, right? And there's and like we were called conspiracy theorists for saying that. Like eventually, like the unvaccinated people will be like an untermensch class in society that aren't allowed to go to bars or go to shops or like do any of that stuff. Like we were all called conspiracy theorists. Like, eventually the government is just going to legally mandate everyone to get the vaccine. Again, we were called conspiracy theorists. However, everything that we have said has came true. You know, eventually everyone is becoming their own little Alex Jones, where eventually the things you say turn out to actually be true. Right, and that's just, this is something that we knew was going to happen, right? We knew that this was going to occur. Unfortunately, it has, and it just seems that the people of Europe are doing something about it.